Hello and welcome to today's episode, which deals with the concept, meaning and components of consumer behavior. In addition, this episode will also throw some light on the need and importance of understanding consumer behavior. This episode will also tell the concept of group dynamic, reference groups and so on. I am Garima Surana and the subject expert is Dr. Tarannum Amir, teaching in Satyavati College, University of Delhi, New Delhi. Today, we will take a broad overview of the concept of consumer behavior. In today's world, consumer is the king and the satisfaction of the consumer is the main purpose of the business enterprise. It is the consumer who determines what to buy, why to buy, how to buy, when to buy, from whom to buy, and so on. A marketer should carefully analyze the behavior of the consumer to be successful in his mission. However, it is difficult to analyze the behavior of the consumer because the behavior of one individual or consumer is different from another. But in order to survive in the market as well as to satisfy the consumer, marketer must have sufficient knowledge about the nature, habits, tastes, preferences and the motives of the consumers. In other words, understanding the behavior of the consumer is the prerequisite for the success of any business organization. Modern concept of marketing has also emphasized the consumer orientation. This means that the focus must be given on the consumer's interest and then supply the products which meet the requirements of the consumers. It has been said that there are more chances of success if a business enterprise produces the products after assessing the requirements of the consumers. This means that before producing the products, the needs, requirement as well as the preferences of the consumers should be carefully analyzed. Every consumer is different and important to the marketer. Thus, the behavior of the consumer must be properly understood by the marketers. Meaning of consumer. There is always a misconception that consumer and customer are one and the same thing. But in actual practice, these two terms are different. Consumer is a person who actually or directly consumes the product, and customer is the person who does not directly consume the product. Here, in this script, we are more concerned about consumer and his behavior. Behavior means the way of acting or functioning. Meaning of consumer behavior. According to Skiffman and Kanuk, consumer behavior is the study of how individuals make decisions to spend their available resources, which are time, money and effort, on consumption-related items. It includes the study of what they buy, why they buy, when they buy, where they buy, how often they buy it and how often they use it. This definition clearly shows that the study of consumer behavior starts before actual production and goes even after the purchase of the product. This is a continuous process. In the words of Ostro and Smith, consumer behavior has been defined as action of consumers in the marketplace and the underlying motives for those actions. need and importance of understanding consumer behavior. It is better for the business organization to understand the needs and requirements of the consumers before going into production process. There are various factors which has made study of consumer behavior important. Some of them are discussed below. Tastes and preferences of consumers are changing day by day and becoming highly diversified. Nowadays, consumers prefer differentiated products with new features which satisfy their needs and aspirations. Second, it helps in planning and implementing marketing strategies. Consumers' reaction to a firm's marketing strategies has great impact on their firm's success. By understanding the behavior of the consumer, marketers are in a better position to predict how consumers will respond to marketing strategies. Third, introduction of new products and technology has made the study of consumer behavior more imperative. Fourth, study of consumer behavior is also important for market segmentation. Fifth, marketing mix can satisfy consumers only if the marketer has full knowledge about them. Sixth, new concept of marketing, that is, consumer-oriented, can be successful only when marketer understands fully the needs as well as the requirements of the consumers. Buying motives of the consumers. Whenever a consumer purchases the product, he has something in his mind. This something is called motive. Motive is an influence which induces the customer to buy a particular product. Consumer purchases the product for three purposes. Firstly, he has a desire which needs to be satisfied. Secondly, he has an urge which induces him to purchase. And thirdly, he has reasoning. One buyer may purchase the product to satisfy his desire, whereas another purchases the product for another reason, and so on. Thus, in order to develop an effective marketing mix, the marketers must understand the different motives of the different people. However, there are three main motives which induce a customer to buy a product. These three motives are as follows. First, internal and external motives. Internal motives are those motives which are inherent in the minds of the consumers. Generally, these types of motives arise from the basic needs of human beings like hunger, safety, comfort, pleasure, and so on. Whereas external motives are those motives which a customer gets from their surroundings or environment like social status, achievement, income, occupation, culture, family, etc. Second, emotional and rational motives. Emotional motives are those which are based on personal feelings like ego, prestige, pride, etc. While rational motives are based on logical reasoning like durability of the product, cost of the product, need of the product, etc. Third, product and patronage motives. Product motive tells us the reason of purchasing one product over the other, whereas in the patronage motive, whenever consumer need product, he will purchase it from the same manufacturer or outlet. Determinants of consumer behavior. There are a number of factors which determine the behavior of consumers. All these factors are interrelated and interdependent. Personal factors. The personal factors like age, life cycle stage, income, occupation, lifestyle, personality have a bearing influence on the buying behavior of the consumer. The age and life cycle stage of a person is the main determinant of the consumer behavior. When the person is infant, he needs baby food, toys, games, books, etc. And when he grows and becomes teenagers, their demand changes with the passage of time. At this stage, person requires trendy clothes, recreational facilities, etc. And when he reaches at old age, he has different requirements. Apart from this, family life cycle also has a bearing influence on the behavior of the consumer. Income level is another personal factor which affects the buying behavior of the consumers. Income level determines the purchasing power of the consumer. The purchasing power of the consumer determines whether the consumer has the capacity to buy the product or not. Occupation of the consumer also determines the consumption pattern. For example, the buying consumption of a teacher will be totally different from that of a corporate executive. Personality trait of an individual also influences the buying pattern of the consumer. Lifestyle of a person has bearing influence on the buying behavior of the consumer, and marketer should carefully assess the lifestyle of their consumers, because consumers' lifestyle will undoubtedly affect what products they buy and what brands they prefer. Second, cultural factors like religion, customs, traditions, values, beliefs, knowledge, language, etc. are also important determinants of the consumer behavior. Culture permeates our daily life and therefore influences buying pattern of the consumers. Eating habits, food preferences, as well as the clothes of the most of the people get influenced by their own culture. Culture has a pervasive influence on the buying pattern of the consumers. Marketers must understand the culture of their customers before going into the production process. Third, psychological factors like self-concept, beliefs and attitudes, perception, motivation and learning influence the buying habit of the consumers. These factors operate within individuals and determine their general behavior. A. Self-concept. Consumers purchase those products which suits to their self-image. Marketers of various products like clothing, cars, jewelry, etc. have to assess the self-concept of their consumers. Consumers of self-image must be given due importance, because whatever product they buy, that reflects and enhances their self-concept. They are very conscious about the product they purchase. B. Beliefs and attitudes. Apart from self-concept, marketers also have to be very careful in assessing the beliefs and attitudes of their consumers. For example, most of the consumer believe that products sold in malls are more expensive than the products sold in the local markets. An attitude is a learned predisposition to respond to an object or class of objects in a consistently favorable or unfavorable way. Attitudes play a major role in determining consumer behavior. However, a consumer's attitudes do not always predict purchase behavior. A person may have favorable attitude about certain product but yet not buying it because of some other factor. C. Perception. In the words of S.P. Robbins, perception may be defined as a process by which individuals organize and interpret their sensory impressions in order to give meaning to their environment. Every consumer has a certain perception about certain products, brands, sellers, etc. Different consumers perceive the same thing at the same time in a different manner. It is a selective process in the sense that our eyes and mind would like to see and read only those things which suits to us, or in which we have the interest, and ignore the things in which we do not have interest. For example, some consumers have perception that shops in malls and other well-located places charges higher prices, whereas others don't perceive the same. Everyday number of advertisements of the products is exposed to us, but we perceive only those in which we have more interest. It is actually a person's past experiences. Every consumer perceives as well as approaches the product differently according to their needs and wants. One consumer buys Colgate toothpaste, another buys Close-Up toothpaste. This is because of perception, that a Colgate toothpaste may appear good to one consumer and Close-Up toothpaste may appear good to another. There are various factors which affects our perception. Some of them are needs and desires about a particular product, personality of a consumer, experience of a consumer, intensity, etc. D. Motivation. The term motivation has been derived from the word motive, which means reason for the action. Whatever may be the behavior of a consumer, there is some reason behind it. Motivation has close relationship with the behavior of human beings. It explains how and why the human behavior is caused. In the words of E.F.L. Brecht, motivation is a general inspirational process which gets the members of the team to pull their weight effectively, to give their loyalty to the group, to carry out properly the tasks that they accepted, and generally to play an effective part in the job that the group has undertaken. Marketers should carefully understand the motives of the consumers for purchasing a particular product. E. Learning. It is a process of changes in behavior resulting from observation and experience. Consumers from the past experiences may have learnt some lessons which influence his buying pattern. For instance, if a consumer has purchased an air conditioner from LG company and he has a good experience with that company, then he will definitely purchase the washing machine from the same company. This means that learning experiences and observation taken from earlier product purchasing of an air conditioner is extended to other products purchasing of washing machines. Principles of strategic marketing. Principles of strategic marketing are the guidelines to introduce and market the product and services. First, target market. The first principle is to establish a target market. This comprises of consumers who are likely to purchase the particular product. Target market is categorized on the basis of demographic groups, on the basis of personalities, and on the basis of lifestyles. Second, testing. This principle helps the marketers to test their product ideas with customers. Third, distribution and advertising. Another important principle is to advertise as well as to distribute the product effectively. Personality and consumer behavior. The term personality is defined by Morgan and King as the characteristics and distinctive trait of an individual, the stable and shifting pattern of relationship between these traits, and the way the traits interact to help or hinder the adjustment of a person to other people and situations. Marketers are always interested in knowing how personality of an individual can influence the buying behavior of consumer. Personality of an individual plays an important role because it gives various information to the marketer. This information will enable the marketer to go for suitable market segmentation. There are certain specific personality traits which influence consumer acceptance of new products and services. Social class and consumer behavior. Man as a social animal is a member of the different and complex type of social organization. This social organization is known as society. Society is created through social interactions between the members through exchanging their ideas and communications. an individual over a period of time get affected by the society. Thus, society or social class plays a major role in influencing the buying behavior of an individual. A social class is usually defined by the amount of status that members of a specific class possess in relation to members of other classes. Each social class has their own lifestyle and consumer behavior pattern. Therefore, marketers should understand how social class or society influences the consumer behavior of the target market. The term dynamic is originated from the Greek word which means force. The term group has been defined as the interaction of two or more persons with one another in such a manner that each person influences and is influenced by each another. In the words of Shepherd, the term group has been defined as the aggregation of small number of persons who work for common goals, develop a shared attitude and are aware that they are a part of a group and perceive themselves as such. Thus, the term group dynamics is defined as the study of forces operating within a group. Study of group dynamics, when extended to consumer behavior, will help the marketer know and understand the impact of various types of groups on the individual's buying behavior process. Reasons for formation of a group. First, socialization. Being a social animal, human being wants to belong and to associate with each other. He does not like to work in isolation. Second, interpersonal attraction. People like to belong to that group which is physically attractive and similar to them. Third, satisfaction. Belonging or interacting to a particular group gives satisfaction to the individual. Fourth, a change from usual work environment. Types of groups relevant to consumer behavior. Various types of groups influencing the decision-making process of consumers is as follows. First, family of the consumer. This is the most influential group affecting the buying behavior of an individual. Second, the friendship group. The influence of friends is also seen in the buyer's choice of food habits and drinks. Marketers have realized the important role played by friends in influencing the consumption pattern of individuals in certain category of products. Third, formal social group. Being a social animal, human beings like to spend most of the time in formal social groups. These social groups have a great influence on the purchases of certain products. For instance, the secretary of a reputed club like to maintain the status and should proudly possess certain products or services like branded clothes, car, furnished house, etc. Marketers have also realized the importance of the formal social groups in the life of the individual members and thus try to design their marketing program accordingly. Fourth, work group. This group consists of formal or informal group. Formal group is that group which is deliberately created by the organization in order to fulfill a particular task. Formal group relations, especially in the superior-subordinate relationship, the superior is likely to influence the buying consumption pattern of his or her subordinate. Apart from formal group, the informal group also influences the consumption behavior of their members. Reference groups. The term reference group has been defined by Herbert Heyman as the type of group that an individual uses as a point of reference in determining his own judgments, preferences, beliefs and behavior. There are different types of reference groups. First, normative reference group. Normative reference group is defined as a group which directly influences general values or behavior of a member. For instance, family will be a normative reference group of a child. The family inculcates certain values in his child. Second, comparative reference group. This type of group serves as a point of comparison, especially for evaluating one's own status. For instance, an individual may admire his neighbor because of a huge house, number of cars, etc. This individual may consider his neighbor as a comparative reference group and worthy of imitation. Third, indirect reference group. This reference group consists of celebrities of movie, sports personalities, etc. These types of groups have a long following in the form of fans. Though there is no direct contact between the fans and their respective stars, but they are able to influence their fans. This can be highlighted in their day-to-day purchases. Thus, star personalities act as opinion leaders and marketers try to reach their target market through them. Fourth, contactual group. These are the groups with which the person interacts and has regular contacts. For instance, friends, family, neighbor, peer groups, etc. Fifth, aspirational group. It is one of the group to which the individual wishes to belong. The individual may not have a formal membership and also does not have face-to-face contact, but he aspires to be a member. This aspiration acts as a positive influence on that person's attitude and behavior. Sixth, Disclamant Group. This is a group whose values or behavior does not appeal to the individual. That is all for today. Hope you have understood the concept of consumer behavior. We'll see you again with another topic on marketing. Till then, take care. Bye.
Thank you.